Hi, I'm Shannon Fandler, and I work on product development for Insight PRM and MoveMyBiz.com. Welcome to today's webinar, Find New Prospects the Easy Way. Your host is Larry Dillon, CEO of Wendover Corporation, Insight PRM, and MoveMyBiz.com. Here's Larry.
Thanks, Shannon. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. We're excited about today's webinar. And also, thanks, everyone, for all of your comments and support. We really appreciate it. We're always looking for new ideas about webinars that we can do to help you sell more. Our passion in life is helping our clients close more deals. We want to give our clients the unfair advantage. We want to get them in ahead of the RFP and figure out innovative ways and sometimes old school ways that we've all forgotten about that are actually going to help you close deals. So this is interactive. Feel free to ask questions. Any comments that you have or any suggestions that you have, you can reach me at larry@insightprm.com. So let's get started. Finding new prospects the easy way. Well, there are harder ways and there are easier ways to get new prospects. All of them require some work. But sometimes we find that there are, sort of hidden treasures within our own customer base, within our own organization, that, too often we find out about too late. So what we're going to do is go over a few things that we think are going to help you to find some new customers the easy way. First, I'm going to talk about increasing revenue from your customer base. Then we're going to talk about the social media gold mines. I'm going to talk about LinkedIn, and Shannon is going to talk about Facebook and Twitter and how to use social media. And finally, we'll talk about how to make a good lead better. With all the social media, there's some basic block and tackling. There's some basic procedures that you may want to think about putting into your process. And remember, the whole idea behind all of this is to turn it not into a one-time thing, but we're always sort of adding to our process of lead conversion, lead generation. So we always want to keep in mind that when we go through these things, we want to take the steps that are necessary to put it in a process in place so that it just continues on. We're going to talk about engaging prospects and clients. So first we're going to talk about increasing revenue from your customer base. And obviously your customers can be a great source of revenue for you, not only doing more business within that customer base, but are there ways that we can get our customers to be better referral basis for us. So there's a couple of steps and there's a couple of pieces of the process that need to be put in place to really take that customer and turn them into an evangelist, somebody that's going to actually bring business to us. It sometimes happens every now and then, but if you put a process to it, you can actually get your customers to bring you more business. So most customers don't realize that you've done a good job. What's the reason for that? Well, let's think about that. The definition, especially during a move, I was in the moving business and furniture installation business, or if you're in the phone business or in the technology business selling hardware or software to companies that are relocating or office furniture, I always used to say to my prospects and my customers, there's going to be 20 problems with this job. I don't know what they are right now, but we're going to figure them out. We're going to deal with them, hopefully ahead of time, so that they don't become an issue for you. So part of the process might be an exit interview with the client. And let me give you an example. If, let's say, you did installed a new phone system or furniture, and you found that there were 10 problems. Let's say that particular parts that your client needed for a successful installation were not going to be delivered on time because the prospect waited till the last minute to contact you. And when this occurs, sometimes we don't go to the customer and say, hey, there's a problem because you got started too late. How many times have you done sort of that Superman or Supergirl move where you made the parts appear? You went above and beyond the call of duty to get the parts in on time or to fix problems as they came up. And often, especially with an office move, there are a couple of instances like that. So what I would do after the move, I would ask the customer, how do you think the move went? Now, if we did a great job, nothing happened, right? That's almost the definition of a great job. It's transparent to the customer. But what they don't realize is what went on behind the scenes. So, for example, I would say to the customer, how do you think the job went? Typically, they would say, hey, you guys did a good job. And then I would take a deep breath and I said, well, did you realize that because you started too late, the parts that you needed to have your furniture installed weren't due to be manufactured again for a month or two after your move? And they said, well, wait a minute, how did you get the parts? I said, well, I made 50 phone calls, I searched around the country, I found the spare parts at another furniture dealer, I had them FedExed in and got them installed on time. And they said, oh my gosh, I didn't know that happened. And I said, well, did you realize that your phone company was installing PVC cable instead of plenum cable? And I noticed that during the job, and I pointed it out to them, and they said, oh my gosh, that was a big error. So these kinds of errors, and you go through the different things that you did to make sure that that job went off well. By the end of 2 or 3 of these instances, the customer kind of looks at you with these big eyes and says, oh my gosh, you guys did a fabulous job. Thank you so much. I didn't realize that all of this was going on. So if you've done something above and beyond the call of duty to get the job done right, to get a job done on time, make sure that you let the customer know. And this is all part of imprinting, so they don't just sort of write your check or sign off on it and then forget about you next week. So that's the first step, is to make sure that they know that you did not just a good job, that you did a great job. Don't forget to thank your customer. Come back a week later. Now, you all know that when the move is done, it's a headache for them. They're stressed out. It's a tremendous relief for them, but they're not really sort of listening. They're burnt out. So why not go back to your customer a week later or 2 weeks later, maybe with a box of donuts and coffee for the company, and to just go back and say, hey, listen, it was a really busy move, and you were so busy and burnt out at the end. I just wanted to take a special moment to come back and say thank you. You would be surprised how few people do that. And again, that's something to remind the customer that you did a good job and that you do appreciate their business. Thanking them the day of the final hour of the move is likely not to get remembered. But I guarantee you, if you go back a week or 2 later and say, look, I just wanted to say thank you, and drop off a little gift. And it's all about imprinting. What are you going to do to imprint? So imprinting starts when the job is done, letting them know that you did a good job, thanking them, but then what are you going to do to consistently imprint upon the customer? And that should be part of your process. What are you going to do to keep touch with them? We're going to go over that a little later on, a couple of techniques you can use through social media. But don't let the customer forget about you. You got to make sure that you keep your company on their mind, but also let the other folks that relocated in the company know. We found that when we did this, when I was in the moving business, we would get many referrals from the folks. Some people leave a little notepad or a pen behind so that they can, the employees know the name of the company that moved them. So it's, what are you going to do? You have a captive audience of 50, 100, 250 people that you moved. Your names are on the boxes, but the boxes disappear. What can you do to imprint those 100 or 200 people about your company that might induce them to refer you to someone else? Something else that I used to do would be try to get to the customer early on. And when I say early on, if I could get to the customer 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, even 18 months before the move, and try to get in and consult the client, this was something that I could really do to imprint the customer even before they become a customer. And what I would do is I would try to get in early as possible. Now, as a mover, often they don't want to talk to you until the last minute. And that may be true if you're in the phone business or the furniture business. It's one of the biggest complaints that I hear from the vendors is that our customers get started too late. So how are we going to get into that customer ahead of time? Well, one of the things I would say, let's say I found a company that was going to relocate through a lease expiration. Let's say they were going to relocate 9 months from now. I would say, hey, this is Larry Dillon from DH Transfer. I understand that you're relocating. I'd like to come out and give you a quote. And they'd say, hey, Larry, definitely moving. Not interested right now. Could you give me a call back in like 6 months? And I'd say, that's fine. And then I would say, can I ask you a question? They would say, sure. And I would say, have you figured out what the 20 problems are? And they would say, what 20 problems? I said, well, for any move, there's always 20 problems. The key is to figure out what they are well in advance and fix them. And they would say, well, give me an example. I said, well, one time we moved a CEO's desk. It was large. And they called at the last minute, didn't have enough time to do all the checking, couldn't fit the desk up the stairs or in the elevator at the new location. The CEO of the company was very distraught. We had to move it back into the warehouse. We had to hire a crane. It didn't get moved in until a day or two later, and it didn't look good for the office manager. So we would give one or two examples like that, and typically the next response from them would be, how soon can you get out? So we all have examples of where a customer waited till it was too late and didn't give the vendor enough time to really thoroughly investigate the total job. And then what would happen is that I would get in early and I would start to uncover problems, as you do when you've got time, and I would fix the problem, figure out a solution to the problem months before the move. And then one time somebody said to me, I came in on a follow-up visit, I think I was dropping off a box of chocolate and aspirin, and they said, well, what's the chocolate for? And I said, well, it's a stressful move, and that's going to make you feel better. And they said, what's the aspirin for? I'm like, that's all the headaches that you're going to have. And they said to me, Larry, listen, I've been working with you for the last couple of months. I really appreciate, all the effort that you've put into this, and I just wanted to thank you. And what I said at that time, I said, well, you would be surprised how many times people tell me that. And I said, in fact, because the week before I had just gotten referred to another customer even before that customer signed up on the job, just based on the fact of how attentive I was before the sale. And typically what would happen is when I would tell that story, the first time I told that story, I watched the prospects stop in their tracks, look up in the air, put their hand on their chin and say, hold on, Larry. All right, take down this name and number. Call Bob Jones at XYZ Company. They're moving their office, and tell them I referred you. So it worked out so well that I was literally getting referrals before they signed the contract. Then I would go and sign Joe, go do the estimate for Joe. That was a pretty easy deal because I was referred in. Then I would go back to my original customer and I would say, hey, listen, thanks for referring me to Joe. He just signed up. He's moving with us June 1st. Then it was almost incumbent upon the first person to buy from us. The first time this whole dynamic happened, I thought it was pretty funny. But it's all about doing the job, right? Putting the effort in and really delivering superior service for your client. So another thing that we need to think about is what's the value, the lifetime value of your customer. Now this is dependent upon the type of business that you're in. Oftentimes, I see companies underestimate the value of a customer because they don't think of it in terms of the lifetime value of your customer. Now, what I can tell you is, as many of you know, I have my rock stars. My rock stars are the top 100 or 200 companies that I've worked with out of the 10,000 companies that we've worked with. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're selling voice over IP services and you're looking at a client that's got, let's say, 20 seats and they're going to spend $30 a month per seat. So what's that, $600? $600 a month. So a lot of clients will erroneously look at that as like a $600 sale or maybe a $6,000 sale. My rock stars look at that and they'll say, we keep our customers an average of 6 years and 3 months. By the way, my rock stars know exactly on average how long they keep their customers or what their averages are. So they'll look at that and they'll say that customer's worth $36,000. That means that they'll put, obviously, it mentally and organizationally, process-wise, you're going to put 6 times the effort into that client if you look at the lifetime value of the customer versus that 1 month. If you're in the moving business, it might be, well, what are the other opportunities? Maybe you do record storage. Maybe that's another opportunity. Maybe you do shredding. So it's a matter of looking at the client and saying, how can we upsell or cross-sell, or what's the real value of this customer? And, sort of adjusting the amount of effort that you're going to put into building the relationship with that customer. And that brings me to the next subject, which is the fallacy of upselling and cross-selling. So often I've talked to CFOs of public companies who have acquired other companies and assume that, well, we sell industrial gases. We just bought an industrial welding supply company. Our sales reps will cross-sell the various products and services. Well, at the end of the day, when that was all done, it doesn't happen. The reason is that it takes time, energy, and effort to cross-sell. The other thing is that if you have sales reps, for instance, if you're in the moving business that specialize in selling commercial moving, they're going to focus on selling commercial moving. If you have another division that sells record storage, they're going to focus on record storage. If you have someone that sells record storage and commercial moving, they're going to focus on the one thing that makes them the most money. So my suggestion is always if you have the opportunity to upsell or cross-sell, you need to put some more effort into it. So that may be a specialist that comes in to cross-sell or upsell that client. Which brings me to the next section. Do your customers know all the services you offer? I remember when I was in the moving business, we did mostly commercial moving. We did some residential. And I remember I moved, a friend of mine moved his home. And then a couple months later, I saw him at a cocktail party. And he was talking about, they're like, hey, yeah, we just moved our offices and blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him and I said, John, you didn't call me. Why didn't you call me about the office move? He said, oh, Larry, I didn't realize that you were in the office moving business. So I don't know if that's happened to anyone else. Does that happen to anyone else out there where you have a friend or a client that didn't realize that you offered another service? So I think the safe bet is to assume that all of your customers and prospects don't realize that you know all the services that you offer. So set up a process in place. So for example, let's say the procedure is when you get a new prospect, that person's email address is entered into your CRM, and then immediately an email is sent to the prospect saying, hey, thank you for considering our service. By the way, we also offer these other services. And that's important before, during, and after the relocation or the installation of the furniture, computer systems, or telephone systems. You don't want to take a good customer and lose them to a competitor simply because they didn't realize that you offered cloud computing or you sold filing cabinets or systems furniture or cloud services. So don't assume. The safe bet is don't assume that your prospects, your customers, are not aware of all the services that you offer. So the other thing you can do is, that should say, I apologize, it should say incentives for referrals. But you can incentivize your prospects for referring you. This definitely works. It may be in the form of a reduction in the price of your service. It could be, a donation that you make on their behalf to their favorite charity. But giving customers incentives for referring you is definitely something that works. The other thing that I think that we often undervalue, that is a tremendous asset that all of you have, because I talk to many of you, and computers, hardware, network services, office furniture, telecom. You guys know a lot of information. The other thing is that you have up-to-the-minute information on your industry. This is something that your customers don't have. So become the expert. You are the expert, but let the customer know. For example, let's say you sell telephone systems. Let your customers know if they're considering, even if you don't sell voice and data services, let them know, hey, listen, anything that has to do with your network, voice and data services, please feel free to call me. I'm very familiar with those areas. I'm happy to supply you with any information that might be helpful. The other thing you could do is, like we're doing today, is do webinars on and provide free information for your customers. Finding information about something that you know very little about over the internet can be good and it can be dangerous, as we all know. Just because it's on the internet does not mean that it's true. So by providing yourself as the expert and being the go-to person for your client, let's say you're in the phone business, anything networks and telecom, whatever you're comfortable with, but let them know that you want to become a valuable resource to them for information. So now let's talk about social media. I think LinkedIn is over 200 million. I think it's over 200 million people that are on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is huge. So I think what's important is to think about your LinkedIn strategy, and let's start with the basics. Are you connected to everyone? That means your high school friends, grade school friends, family, everyone that you've done business with. I remember last year we have this new product, exciting new product that's perfect for technology companies. So I wanted to find the regional manager for this particular network company. And one way to approach them would be to go to any of the various sources, find the person's name, find their email, make cold calls, try to get in touch with them. And as you know, sometimes that could take a couple of weeks, a couple of months. It could take 6 months to get connected to the right person. I simply went to LinkedIn, and it turns out that the regional manager for this public company was connected to a friend of mine from grade school. Very dear friend of mine. So instead of making all those cold calls and taking all that time, I just called my friend up and I said, Jerry, I said, I see that you're connected to so-and-so from XYZ Network Company. He said, yeah, he's a good friend of mine. In fact, I'm playing golf with him on Wednesday. He said, why do you ask? I said, well, I've got this new product. I'd like to meet him and see if he would be interested. He said, why don't you come play golf with us? So, and I think everyone has those stories, but the point is that I've never done business with Jerry. I probably never will do business with Jerry. He just happens to be a friend of mine that I know pretty well, that we went to grade school together. So, and then the other thing is that make sure that everyone in your company is connected to all of their friends and family and business associates. I'll give you another example. There was a software company that we wanted to approach, and I really wanted to meet the CEO of this software company. And so again, I went to LinkedIn. It turns out my cousin is the executive assistant for this CEO and has been for many, many years. Had no idea that she was connected to him. So again, called her up and I said, hey, I had no idea you were working at this company. She says, yes, I take care of the CEOs, all of this stuff, arrange for the planes, take care of his family, the farm, this and that. She said, well, why did you call? I said, well, I'd like to talk to him about this new product. And she said, well, how about lunch next Wednesday? So, and again, an unlikely business connection through a cousin, but you never know who, it might be somebody that works in the mailroom, might have a relative that's the executive assistant to the person that you would want to get in touch with. So not only are you connected to everyone, how connected is your team? Perhaps your strategy, your LinkedIn strategy is that everyone's on LinkedIn, everyone's connected to everyone. That way you expand your net. So, listen, we sell leads. You guys buy leads. You buy leads from a lot of different sources. My best customers probably use 8 different sources of leads. You use marketing techniques. You use trade shows. Help me out. Email campaigns, direct mail campaigns. You get leads from your manufacturer. You get leads, referrals. We're getting, all kinds of opportunities that come to us, and sometimes it's difficult to connect with those folks. Sometimes you don't know why you're being brought in. Why did someone fill out that web request? And even though we do the best that we can to find the right person who's in charge of the move, in charge of buying computer systems, office furniture, telecom, that's not necessarily the best prospect, even if they are the decision maker for that company. Now, why do I say that? Anyone? Yep. You don't know. The best prospect is really somebody that you're connected to, or maybe you know someone that works at that company. So why is that? Well, there's a number of reasons. One reason is that if you have a friend that works at that company, you can sort of get the lay of the land. Who's the real decision maker? How are decisions made? Who are all the players? Who are the influencers? I recently got a lead for a large company that was looking, a regional real estate company that was looking for a new lease expiration database provider. And the person reached out to me. And instead of jumping on the phone and talking to that person, I went to LinkedIn. Turns out, one of my best friends is connected to one of the principals. So instead of calling the manager who had reached out to me, I called my friend and I said, "Hey, Andy, do you know this guy Glenn at XYZ Real Estate Company?" He said, "Do I know him? We've got beach houses next to each other. We have beers every weekend. Why do you ask?" Well, explain the situation. He said, let me call Glenn. So I got in at the partner level instead of going through the manager, because you never know, even when someone reaches out to you, are they just using you to get a second or third bid because they've already decided that they're going to go with someone else? So this way I was able to go right into the top, circumvent all of that, and wound up getting the deal. If I had gone in at the manager level, I don't think my odds would have been as good. So it's really worth the effort to take that extra step to see, do you have a connection on LinkedIn? And the precursor to that, as we talked about, is to make sure you have as many connections as possible. Because you don't want to be at that family barbecue or that cookout or that cocktail party and find out that a dear friend of yours works at a company that just bought a new phone system or spent $500,000 on servers and PCs for their new location. I'm sure we've all been there. Anyone else been in that situation? Just give me a Y or N. Okay. The other thing that you could do is, once you've got that good, a healthy network on your LinkedIn, why not have a special event? Once, twice, 3 times a year, I don't know, go crazy, 4 times a year. And these special events, why not do networking events at your location? If you have a nice showroom or office, maybe just have a networking event. Do something social, invite everyone on your LinkedIn network. So you're not always using the LinkedIn network to get something from somebody. Because right now, the way LinkedIn's used is, if somebody calls me up and says, "Hey, I noticed that you're connected to so-and-so through LinkedIn," the first couple of times it's cute. But then after a while, you're just like, oh boy, LinkedIn, here we go again. Somebody's going to use me to get to someone else. So why not use LinkedIn to send out an invitation to your friends and your connections that you're having a networking event? And the key here, I think, would be, don't try to sell them anything. There's a fellow here who has a very successful office furniture company, and around the time of the Masters, he has a putt-putt contest in his warehouse. He has a great big warehouse. He's got this 18-hole putt-putt thing that he sets up. There are prizes, there's wine and beer and cheese, and everybody has a good time, and it's really well received. And the idea is, why not do something nice for your network? I think this always comes back to help you. And again, great way to invite people to webinars, to free information. So when we're talking about getting business from clients and squeezing more dollars out of your customer base, remember, it's always good to give back. Your special events might be charity events. Maybe you're going to raise some money for your favorite cause. So I think giving back is really important when you're talking about these networks. You don't want to beat up your network to the point that every time somebody gets an email from you where LinkedIn is inside the email, that they feel like you're putting them to work again. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to our resident expert at Facebook and Twitter. This is Shannon. So Shannon, take it away.
Thanks, Larry. So, whether you're new to social media or just, not quite comfortable with it yet, or you've been using it for, quite a while, there's always ways to improve how you utilize these platforms to grow your business, reach out to new prospects and existing customers. But there's a few things you should keep in mind throughout. Number one is to be consistent. Some people, they jump on the bandwagon and they start to utilize a social media platform, and then they fall away, they get busy, and they don't bother to update and make posts. So it's just as important as what you post. How often you post is just as important as how much you post. So be consistent and give your customers something to expect, and look forward to. The second thing to keep in mind is to be patient. Because it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to grow your social network in a short amount of time. It's better to let that happen organically, engage with customers the right way. Eventually, they'll share your content. You'll get new followers, new prospects. It just takes a little bit of time. And thirdly, your social media should complement all of your other marketing efforts. So, there's some great tools out there. You can tie together your other marketing initiatives, promote your events, advertise your product launches, etc. So Facebook and Twitter are just part of the whole package. But anyway, let's... some people, when they're just starting out with social media, they get a little bit of writer's block, and they're not sure what they should post, what they should be including. If you have a blog, and you should have a blog for your company, post your blog post. Direct people to your website and your blog. It's great for organic traffic, great for SEO, but it's also getting customers to learn more about your company. So if you redirect them to your blog, they read what you have to say, they're going to be more interested in what you do. You don't always have to post original content. You can retweet others. In fact, it's really great to share things other people have written just to start a conversation and engage with others. So, feel free to post articles that are interesting, that are related to your industry, that you'll think will provide valuable information to your audience. Also, make it personal. Tweet news about your company, tweet news about employees, and let people get to know you, because that makes you, more personable, and customers are interested in that, and they want to get to know you. And finally, you can use Facebook and Twitter to promote your events. If you're going to a convention or conference, anything like that, anything that's going on with you, use social media as a platform to promote that. Now, some people, if they're just getting started with Twitter, they're not exactly sure how to use hashtags effectively. Hashtags, it's pretty simple. Basically, every tweet, not every tweet. You don't have to use hashtags for every tweet. But, you're going to want to group your tweets according to, a topic or direct them towards an audience. So because we tweet a lot about B2B sales, we post sales tips, we often use the hashtag B2B sales. Now, if someone goes, to that hashtag, clicks that, they're going to see a lot of tweets related to B2B sales, ours among them, and that's a way to just grow your audience. So whoever is searching for that hashtag is going to see your tweets as part of a larger conversation. And another example, when Insight PRM attended the ASCII Success Seminar, we used the hashtag ASCII Success to just, have a conversation with others who were attending that event. So everyone who checked in under that hashtag saw tweets by attendees and other presenters at that conference, and it was just nice to have that conversation within a much larger, platform for conversation.
I like that. Before you go on, hope you can hear me. I think that's a great thing, especially because too often, I'll come back from a trade show, talk to somebody a week or two later, and they'll say, "Oh, wait, you were in Chicago 2 weeks ago?" And there's some great prospects that maybe you've never met before one-on-one, and again, you find out too late. So I think that's actually a really, really good idea.
So how should you engage with prospects using social media? Don't just wait for it to happen. You have to be patient, but you also have to be proactive. So ask people to follow you. Don't hesitate to do that. You could send out an email campaign to everyone on your list, simply asking them to, keep in touch with you via Facebook and Twitter. That's a really good idea. If you're done working with somebody and they had a good relationship with you, just say, oh, follow me on Twitter. And you can follow them back as well and keep in touch with what they're up to. Another good tip is to try to respond to everybody, because nobody wants to feel as if they're not heard. If they reach out to you on a social media platform, treat that as a real conversation that took place in person. So try and get back to them. And this also goes for complaints. Now, you've probably heard a lot in the media of how various companies respond to customer complaints on social media platforms. Some companies handle it really well, and other companies will, get in arguments with customers or, ignore their complaint. So you really want to use that as a positive opportunity to address the complaint in a public way. So then your prospects will see, oh, this is how they handle, a problem or someone who wasn't satisfied. They handle it efficiently and courteously. So even though it's public and you might not want problems or issues to come up in a public forum, you can use that as a positive thing as well.
Okay. Well, thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
That was insightful. And speaking of insight, you can reach me at larry@insightprm.com. We're always looking for content and suggestions. We encourage you to follow along on our webinar series. We've always got a webinar series in the pipes for everything to do with selling and engaging customers and helping you guys not only sell more but sell smarter, get higher margins, get in early. We appreciate your comments. And what do we have coming up next? Tomorrow we have a demo. At what time?
2 p.m.
At 2 p.m. there's a demo for Insight PRM. You should check that out. It's pretty cool. And then I think next Tuesday we're off. We're going to have to skip that one. If anyone signed up for next Tuesday, that's going to have to be postponed. We'll let you know about the scheduling for that. So thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.